Allspice is like a directory or folder where you can see all versions of your schematic and PCB. You can visually compare them, and it can be also used to manage your board design process. It's free for students, it may be free for open source projects, contact Allspice, but otherwise it is a commercial project. However, I really like what they are doing, and I believe this system may help you. That's why I decided to create this video. This is how allspice can be used.
So what we've done here is we've actually migrated over one of your demo projects, Robert, and you can see there the key difference between what you'd get from GitHub or GitLab, Bitbucket, or any other of these Git hosting providers you might have seen is we'll actually natively render these design files in the cloud.
Cool.
So right off the bat, this is going to give you a snapshot of your design file, both the PCB and the schematic.
What software do you support?
So we work with Altium Designer, and we have beta support for both KiCad and OrCAD.
Okay, perfect. So basically anyone working in Cadence or in KiCad or in Altium will be able to see schematic and PCB directly in this Git kind of system. Why is it, how it can be useful to use this system for collaboration, I guess, because we would like to, if we would like to make changes, if we would like to make approvals or something, we can do everything in this system, correct?
Exactly. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start to run through some of these tabs here you see, which are really to empower that collaboration process. A typical event we'll see is somebody, a collaborator or stakeholder
Manager, team leader,
feature.
client.
It could be a client if you're doing, especially for the contractors, consultants, we'll make a request for something. In this case, we can say, reduce a redundant LED circuit. So in the design we showed, we have two circuits for LEDs. We have found in this case that one of them is no longer needed, so that we can actually remove one of them. And I'll create just a bare bones issue right here. Issue is just kind of this ticketing system. And then I'll show you how you can actually kind of decorate this and give this a whole lot of information. First, we're going to add a label to it. Let's use this default label set we've created, which has all of these nice, very hardware specific labels that we can add for things, just to give a little bit of extra context.
So for example, when there is something really important, you can say, fix this first, okay? Put their critical priority.
Yeah. So there's priorities here, and we also have a little bit of extra context. We could say this requires, DFM review. This is going to require some layout
changes,
and that kind of helps people filter as you get more and more issues to be able to, better search or kind of prioritize.
Okay.
So that's one thing we can do. The other thing we can do is we can start to give this a little bit more information. So if somebody's created that issue, whether it's me or somebody else, I can actually come in and say, okay, this is the circuit we're going to have to delete. So before we even go through and make any changes, maybe I don't have time to change it right now, but I can say, delete the leftmost circuit. Here, I can preview this comment and save it if I like it. And you can see here is this will actually give a little snippet to the schematic and to the portion of the schematic that I need to change.
Mm-hmm. Can you work like, I think when we were talking about this before, you mentioned we can also organize different versions of the schematic. So let's say this is like version 1. Can we somehow tell it in this?
Yeah, that's right. So we have this feature called milestones, and this can allow you to essentially do a bit of project management in your design. So start to organize or group together different issues that you want to resolve for different milestones or release versions. So what I'll do here is I'll create a new milestone. I'll say, let's launch version v0.1 and say initial release to production.
So this is going to be our first prototype, correct?
Yeah, that's the idea for this one.
And then you can say the issue with LED basically belongs to, yeah, that's what I.
Yep, exactly. This milestone
So it has to
here.
be fixed before we go into production.
Yep, yep.
Okay.
Exactly, to resolve, because you get this little tracker here, 0% complete for this milestone, and you'll see that if you had more releases, of course, you'll get this nice tracker towards your completion for that.
Okay, let's make the changes. I would like to see what are the next steps.
So here I've cloned the repository locally, which means I can now open it in Altium. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is create a new branch for us to work from. To do that, I'll say create branch at this version, and I'm going to call it develop. Generally, what we recommend is to do all of new design on the develop branch, and then you save master or main as your approved release versions. So you can think of develop as kind of your work in progress designs, and you'll see this branch will start to progress, and then main will stay as this initial version here, and then we'll update that when we run a full design review to approve these design changes. And you'll see how that works here.
Okay,
So
I would like to just clarify. So basically, if anyone is working with Git, then they will know what we are talking about. But if you have never used Git before, clone repository, it means we downloaded the files from internet. We downloaded the files from the allspice.io repository, and we have the files locally, but we will use this special software. How is it called again? You can open the tortoise, or
yep.
Which will help us to see what is happening in our local repository. And repository is just, let's say, directory, make it simple. And it's called repository because we can also track what is actually happening in this directory, and that's what we will see in this software. And initially, when we downloaded our files from allspice.io, it was called master. Master is it's something what is called branch, but you can actually work, or we can work with our files under different branches. For example, when we are not sure if we are going to, or I don't know how to explain it. If you have more developers, for example, then each of them can use different branch, and then basically they can put everything into one master branch, all their changes or something like this. So we don't want to work directly with master branch because that's the kind of safe place. There is the latest, best version and stable version, and our development versions are under this development branch. Correct?
Exactly. It gives you these kind of like sandbox environments to make the changes that you want to make. And then what we'll show later is you have the ability to actually compare the changes you've made against that, the master version, and make decisions about basically updating master to reflect those changes you've made.
Okay. So now we are going to make the changes in our schematic in this development branch.
So what I'll do here is I'll actually make the changes we talked about in the schematic. I will save these changes here, and if I come back to TortoiseKit here, I can reload the page, and I can see that this schematic file has been modified. What I can do now is actually commit and push those changes. Commit is going to add a new revision to this develop branch you were talking about earlier, Robert. And push is actually the command to sync it with the cloud repository.
So commit only kind of add message locally.
Exactly. So you'll see here we're going to commit to that develop branch,
and we can describe the changes, LED deleted or something. Yeah.
So delete left LED driver circuit.
Should not this be like deleted?
Schematic. Yeah, it's probably good practice to keep actually What's pretty common is in these commit messages to use present tense. So if
Okay.
I'm looking at a history, I can actually see, what is the change in that version.
Okay.
So it's something I've kind of gotten used to is using present tense.
Okay.
And and we can commit that and see how that reflects in these changes. And what I'll actually do is I'll push that now.
So push, it means we will upload it to web.
Exactly. Now you could stop and then come back later and do this, but for the sake of simplicity, we'll do it all now. You can see now this develop branch has moved up one version.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone's following along with TortoiseGit, I've also checked this show all branches button. This is nice to be able to show all of what's going on. By default, it kind of pares this down and keeps it a bit more simple, but it's nice to be able to see all of your branches.
Okay, let's have a look what happened on our website.
And on the website here, if we reload the page, you can see that we now have that second branch here. We have that develop branch. And on the develop branch, you'll see here that commit message on this file deleted that left LED driver circuit. And we can see that change has been reflected here. We only have the single LED driver
Can
circuit.
we compare previous and current schematic?
Absolutely. So the best way to do that is to actually start the designer view process. And what this will actually do is run a comparison. You can see here, I want to merge into that master branch from the develop branch we're working on. And you can see this diff. This is essentially, you can think of it as an automated red line between those two versions. Red here we have highlighted because it's the component has been deleted.
So this is basically difference between the development version and the master version.
Exactly. Okay. And once you create this, we can see, I can add some notes here. So actually this closes number one being actually the issue. Remember that issue that we created earlier, which said, hey, we need to go fix this. There's an automatic link that's added when we tag that issue, and deletes the LED driver.
And can someone approve this merge, or how does it work?
Exactly. So that's the process I'll show you in just a second here. The first thing I'm actually going to do is add a collaborator, because I realize I'm the only one on this project right now. I've got it, I'm holding it in my own repository, and I believe we don't actually have any reviewers added to this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add somebody.
Senior hardware
so I can go
engineer.
into settings, collaborators, and let's add this user account we've created, approver April.
Yeah, so this can be, for example, hardware design, senior hardware design engineer checking schematic, or different engineer.
Yeah. I mean, because it's all cloud enabled, it's really, really easy to add other people. One of our goals really with the product and the company is to, break down silos of communication. So even folks that are not necessarily super fluent with the ECAD design tools and things like that can get access to reviews here. For instance, I can add approver April to my design review, and she will actually get a notification. This can all be configured so that notifications can be hooked up to email, Slack, Microsoft Teams, and other chat services, so that even someone who is not maybe necessarily working day to day with ECAD tools can understand how to do this. So you can see I have a new notification here. In this case, now I've moved over to my approver April. I'm actually logged in as this other approver, and you should see here, what I would see if I was this other person. The first thing you'll notice is I can jump over here to the files changed and actually see that same diff. So me as the other user, the approver, I get a lot of information here that's generated by default, and I can actually come in and say, so let's say she says here, this changes, this all looks good, but I noticed this LED is green, and I said, hey, marketing told me the other day this should be blue. And this is kind of meant to emulate a typical back and forth you might expect to see from a design review. So coming back over here, now I'm going to go back to my regular user, Kyle. I see this, I get a notification for it. What I can do is actually say, that's valuable information, but we're actually going to solve this in another review. This is out of scope, and we'll solve it in, I'll say V2. So let me reply with that. And let's say everything else looks good. We've talked a little bit there, or we have some other communication offline. And April can actually come back here and say, okay, checked it out, and everything looks good. And we'll give it a nice thumbs up. So that gets approved.
So senior design engineer approved the schematic.
Exactly. So coming back here, let's give this page a quick reload. You'll see I have a nice checkbox here from approver April, and gets that note inline. Of course, you could add other approvals as well, but assuming this all looks good, what I'm going to do is actually merge those files in. And this is basically going to update that master branch with all these changes that we made on the develop branch.
Okay, so until now, the master branch has not been updated.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, and how did you request the design review? I didn't catch where you clicked.
Yeah, that's right here. I hit the new designer view. So once I'm on the develop branch, I hit a new designer view, and that brings me to the next page. Now, if I click it, you'll see it says, hey, they're equal. That's because they should reflect the same thing now.
Okay, and then when you add the new collaborator, then they will automatically see everything what is happening in this new design review, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah, okay, you'll see here this designer view is now closed. So we have one closed designer view. And the other thing to note is actually because I use this kind of magic keyword in the description, it actually automatically closes that issue. The other thing you might recall is we never actually resolved this issue here. So let's actually create a new issue from this one. And I can come in here and say, make LED blue. I'll create this issue, and you can see here we have a new issue here. We have one open, one closed, and we have that new make LED blue issue. And we have actually a link back to where it was initially made. So we have that full kind of traceability that you'd want.
And how we can show this is going to be in the next? Okay, you are going to do it.
Yeah, I'll actually make a new milestone here since you mentioned it, and I'll say put this on version 2.0. And I think the last thing we'll want to do, I'll actually create one more issue here, and I'll say make LED circuit deletion on PCB. So we made the change in the schematic. We didn't actually make it on the PCB. So I want to make sure that gets done for the initial version 0.1 milestone. So we'll make sure that happens here. And I can actually show you kind of a neat little feature to do that. So the same thing we did before from the schematic, we'll do with the PCB and say the changes are made create an issue. I can jump into view the PCB here, and I can actually demonstrate, hey, look, I'm counting two diodes right here. The left one and then the right one. Let's just grab this circuit and make it super clear that there are some more changes to be made here. That all looks good. Okay. Does it all sound good? If so, we can jump into the into Altium again, and we can make those changes to the PCB.
Okay.
Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to pull to make sure we're all the way up to date. And you can see, this reflects all of those changes that we've made. And what I'm going to do now is actually.
But theoretically, we don't have to do that, do we? We can just continue working on PCB.
Because we're the only one making changes, we can continue working. It's good practice to sync. And Altium will actually give you a little notification here if you're out of sync. Because if somebody else is making any changes or collaborating with other people, we'll want to make sure that we're syncing those.
Okay, so let's make changes in the PCB.
Right, and to make changes in the PCB, we'll just do a quick update here, execute these changes, and I will grab these traces just to clean things up. You'll see it deleted those 2 LEDs. And use control delete to continue deleting those traces. And just to kind of finish cleaning up a bit, we'll make this pour the full size of the board. Hit repour.
Okay.
Finally,
now I guess you need to save it.
Yeah, let's save it. I hit save on the keyboard, but we'll hit it here as well. And if I come back here and refresh the page, I'll see we have this modified file, the PCB change. Same thing as we did before. Let's run a commit to develop branch, remove LED circuit from PCB. Commit and push, same thing. Yep, develop branch. And I will close out of that, and we'll go back to allspice again, and we'll do one more time that open that designer view.
First show me what is now visible here. What can we see here?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I go over to the develop branch, I can see that PCB has been updated to remove the second LED circuit here, drive circuit.
If you click on commit, what we can see in the commits?
Yeah, in the commits, you'll see that design history as well. So that message I just made 17 seconds ago, remove LED from circuit from PCB.
So this is very nice place to actually see what was happening in your project.
Yeah. Exactly. And what we can do here is if we hop back to the primary screen, go to the develop branch, we can start that new designer view.
So again, maybe senior design engineer will review the changes in the PCB.
Exactly, same thing. And of course, you can do both of those at the same time. If you wanted to update the schematic and the PCB, this is really, really starts to be up to the design team to develop what process works best for them in terms of how large to scope these designer views, what kind of people to add to them as well.
This is just to show the process.
Yeah, exactly. We've broken it up in some pretty granular steps here, and you can see a couple changes here. This is we call it diff. It's automated red line. It's probably helpful to jump into this a little bit here. If I want to just look at components that have been removed, I can look at this removed, and it's actually telling me, hey, you deleted this polygon pour and deleted these components. If I show added, it's going to say, hey, you added this polygon pour, and that's it for added components. And if I say full diff, we'll see everything, and we can actually click on them to get even more information. So it's not just showing you an image; it's actually full, object level design information.
So again, okay. Now engineer is telling like, okay, I've done the changes in the PCB. Okay.
Yep, and I'll say closes number 4 here. And let's open this designer view. You'll see that diff is also reflected down here.
And now I would like to see, okay, you are going to add, okay.
Yep, that's where we'll add approver April. And
so basically now you ask approver April to check the changes. Okay.
Yeah, and it's probably worth mentioning, by default, we don't enforce these reviewers. That is a setting that you could toggle. So we could have toggled that in our repo settings that say, hey, you have to have one reviewer before you're able to merge files. Because we haven't toggled that, in generally, again, this is up to the design of the repo owners to decide what kind of flexibility they want. Some people prefer to leave it open to the owner to decide when's the right time to merge those. Some people prefer to have a little bit more of a controlled system. Either one of those is
so theoretically you can basically merge it even without approval.
That's right, and that's what we'll do right now, just for the sake of simplicity.
Okay.
Typically, you would most likely wait for approver April to get that feedback. But let's just jump right into it.
Okay.
We've merged it back in, so now you'll see I'm on that master branch. I have this commit now on the master branch, and I have my updated design files.
Cool.
Super clean.
Yeah, this is very nice. So I'm going to have a look on my notes. Can you do this with libraries?
Yeah, so we can also make some design changes in libraries. You'll see here, we show these icons for the schematic and for the PCB. As far as Allspice Hub goes, we will be rolling out in the coming weeks an update to support the same capability for schematic and PCB library files. Currently, you can still revision those files in Allspice Hub, but you're not going to get that same kind of visual redline diff. We can definitely jump in and make a change and see how those changes to schematics are reflected changes to the libraries are reflected in the schematics.
Okay.
Typically, let's say high priority request came down. These LEDs are way too bright. LEDs are too bright. We'll make this a high priority, and so this shouldn't require layout. This is, I'll say it's a bug even, because it is actually so high priority. We need to dim those LEDs.
Oh, there is one LED only now.
Oh yeah, we need to dim LED. Good point. LED is too bright. We need to dim it. Okay. All right. So to make those changes now, we want to make the green LED dimmer. We're actually going to create a new component, this resistor here with a higher resistance to decrease the current to this LED and make it a little bit dimmer. To do that, we're going to hop over to the schematic library here. And we're going to actually add a new component. Let's use this existing resistor as our template. I'll copy this here. We'll use the manufacturer part search. We have to update the resistance to 560. And we will grab this component here, import, and create a new symbol for it. Let's just copy and paste this old one here. Let's hide, let's see, this property here. And what else do we have? Let's say R question mark for the designator and 560R for the description here. Save this and let me add a footprint. Browse, and I'll use that same resistor footprint.
Okay.
Here, let me save this. And then I can just replace this in line using kind of the in-place part swap here.
Okay, right. Perfect.
Does that look good for the schematic? And then we will update the PCB. Let's validate these, and that looks good, and execute. All right, so this should all be now up to date and in sync. Let's now commit and push these versions. To do that, we'll open up TortoiseKit here. We can see if we reload the page, we'll see the PCB doc,
has been
schematic doc, and schematic lib have been modified. Okay, perfect. We're still on the develop branch. So let's commit those changes and say decrease LED current. Commit and push to my develop
I'm curious
branch.
how this is going to look on the website.
Oh, too close here. Yeah. And let's jump over here to the allspice hub, and we can see on our develop branch just now we've made some changes to the PCB and schematic. Let's see, are these reflected? Film 560 ohms, perfect. It's exactly what we want. So let's go back.
I would like to see what happened with the library. Can you show me what happened with the library?
So we can actually see that in the diff here. So this is now opening up a new designer view again from develop to master. I can see all the designs, how they changed. The PCB has no visual changes to be reflected. The schematic has this here highlighted in yellow. And so we can actually jump in and see exactly what has changed from one version to the other. So there's some pretty straightforward changes here. You can see from the name was updated from the 7360 to 07560 RL. Some other description major attributes change here. Some changes to the pin and symbol, I think because the original one we had offset. That might be something that you would want to review as a designer. You know, are you okay with that symbol changes because I used a different origin? You'd have to make those decisions. And this is where you can actually see some of the attributes you might expect are changed. The manufacturer part number has gone from, you know, that 07360 to 07560. Perfect. The other thing you'll see, though, is that some new attributes are added and some old attributes are now deleted. That's what the green is telling me was added. Red is telling me it was deleted. This might be where you actually want to take a closer look and say, are we okay changing some of these attributes, the keys in the attributes, not just the values, because some companies or firms might require that consistency in the export files. So that's why it's helpful to review these. For now, I'm going to say this is okay. We would have to take a much closer look to make sure we understand why.
So yellow are the existing with changes, red are removed, and green are new.
Yep, okay. Exactly. And you can always drill down a bit deeper to see why the yellow ones are changed.
Okay, and what happened with the library? Oh, I see. There is been... Okay, so right now we cannot really see the changes in the library, but you are working also on the view.
Exactly. Yeah, that's coming. You can see how the changes are reflected in the schematics right now, as I just showed you. But the library, like that parent schematic file, that's what we're working on now.
Okay. So basically, you can use this whole system also kind of managing libraries.
Exactly. And depending on the complexity and the setup of your how you like to manage your designs, it might make sense for you to create a repository with your library designs. That kind of allows you, especially in companies or people working with collaborators, to share a single repository of libraries so that you're not recreating the same ones or copy and pasting the same version components, which may get out of sync, or even worse, like, you know, creating 3 different of the same chip or slightly different chip when you can work out of the same repository.
That's good, because I think managing libraries and versioning all the components and footprint symbols, I think that can be really tricky.
Yeah, us too. And, we'll have to follow up on this at some point, because I think there's a lot we can do here, especially with Git and branches, managing those libraries and managing them between multiple stakeholders.
Okay, so let's say we finish all these changes, and then we would like to release this board.
All right, let's make those final changes. And I will say this closes number 6, I believe it was. Let's see. Let me open up this. LED is too bright. Perfect. I will create this designer view.
We don't need to approve this by anyone else. We can approve it.
Yeah,
by
and that's why
ourselves?
in practice sometimes it can be helpful if you're maybe a smaller, scrappier design firm and you really need the kind of that flexibility to not have required approvals because say this is super high priority, I can just push this right through.
Okay.
Uh,
So you just click on merge files and that's it.
yeah, so let's merge that in. Yep. And if we go to this issue, you'll see, and we go to the milestones, we'll see this milestone is 100% complete. There are 2 closed issues. So that's all reflected there. Then the last thing we can do is actually create a new release.
So we are going to
And
kind of freeze these files in time, and
yep.
that's what will happen.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll show you a little bit about what it's doing behind the scenes here once it's created. And I'll title this an initial release. And what we can actually do is drop files here to upload. So this could be a good time to attach Gerber files, step files, anything like that can be added here as well.
So these are like extra files.
Exactly, manufacturing outputs, things like that. It can be really good to add those here instead of adding them to the design repository because it can start to really clutter up your source files. And the other thing you can do by uploading the Gerber files and things to releases is you can give specific access control for instance only to CMs to just the releases.
So they don't see the design file. They can access design files.
Exactly. And what that's done is actually made a tag at the most recent master version with the tag 0.1.0. And what that is actually a Git feature. If I pull here the latest changes, I can actually see, hey, tag the 0.1.0 here at this specific version. So it's not only let me pull this back over here. It's not only an allspice hub feature, this is actually a Git feature that it's using to indicate which version has been tagged. And you can imagine that as you create more and more versions, that having those tag versions is really, really helpful.
So it means, for example, if you need to go back and make some fixes on old boards, you will immediately see that this fix belongs to this specific version, or
Yes, yes, you can use some of those more advanced features. So say in here, I'm just going to make a very simple change here just to show something is reflected. Let me save that. And if I commit, I'll only do this commit change around. I just want to show you what it will look like.
So this is basically the change in old version.
Yep. This is the change in the old version, or in my develop version. That's probably what's helpful to see here. So develop is kind of my sandbox version. And say I can this is where you get a bit of power in branches. I can continue to make new changes. Say I'm working on the next version of the product. Now, we generally recommend users stick that 2 branch structure, right? That main branch and the develop branch. The reason being is you kind of get that sandbox environment where you can kind of work out and make changes to. You have that release branch, which is like your main master branch, and then you can keep those in sync. The risk that that can happen with driving more branches is if you change the same file in more branches that you're intending to pull into your main branch, you run the risk of file conflicts. And that is, so for instance, if I have develop 1 and develop 2, I open a designer view, I merge that into the master branch, and then I want to open another designer view for my develop 2 branch. If those have both changed the same file, Git's going to kind of come back and say, I don't know how to consolidate this. You made these changes over here. You made these changes over here. We need more information. There are ways to fix that manually. You would basically have to open up both designs and make sure that the changes are reflected. But it can be quite cumbersome. Using just these 2 branches where you're working only out of one of those is a way to avoid that.
But if you would like to make changes in previous versions, then do you need to like create version from older version, or create branch from
Yeah.
older version, or what do you do?
Exactly. So we can do that now. So if you've already moved on, made some changes to the develop branch, or even merged them into the to your master branch here, but you decided you need to make some changes on this older version because maybe a component went out of stock or something like that. What I can actually do is say create a branch at this previous version. I can call the branch the 0.1.1. You can see why now I kind of left myself some wiggle room there. And I can just say patch fix. I don't need to add this patch fix to the end, but it could be helpful. And I have this switch to new branch enabled. So I'm gonna actually switch to that. And you'll see how here is I have a new branch at this version. So now any changes that I make will be reflected there. We can actually see how Altium handles that.
Okay, I see. We are back now in.
Exactly. Yeah. It's reset. It's moved that ground that I moved over here. It's moved back because I checked out to that previous version. So now any I make, let's say, push this up ahead, um, will be made on this new version. So if I commit, we'll be committing to that patch fix.
I understand. So you can actually you can have all different versions and releases in one directory or in one repository, and you can jump between them whatever or however you need.
Yep, more or less that will. In it can be super powerful, but the basic usage, which is kind of just those two branches, should be relatively straightforward.
Okay. But I wanted to mention this because very often you need to go back and maybe make changes in old versions, so it's like super useful. Okay, I think you mentioned also this. Your system can help with documentation.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I can do is I can jump back into Allspice Hub, and let's take a quick look at the documentation. So by default, we're going to render this README file. And I can use this. It's called an MD is markdown file. It's quite well understood in GitHub and GitLab, Bitbucket, and other Git hosting servers. It's used a lot to kind of just communicate information. What I can do is I can change it locally on my computer, or I can change it directly in the browser here. What I'll do is I want to just add a little bit more information. So why don't I make some edits here? And let's add an image of the design. And to do that, I'm going to look at, we had saved another version of this. Back up. And it's going to look something like this. So to make those changes, let's jump in here, get the raw version, and I'll use a little bit of, this is HTML. There's essentially two ways we can actually add an image into Markdown. One is we can use this kind of Markdown syntax where, let me just only use this URL here.
And you would like to rename the file, I think you mentioned.
Yeah, I can rename it to have a lowercase name. This gives us the styling. We just found earlier we're having some handle these slightly different if it's lowercase. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually commit this. This is going to go directly to that master branch. If I commit those changes, you see we updated the README file. We added this image. It is really small though. If we wanted to make it maybe a little bigger or style it separately, we can also actually inline. This is HTML code, and this gives us the ability to say like specify the width, specify the height. In this case, we're making it a bit bigger. Let's make it 300 by 300. I can preview that. Okay, that's.
And basically, this picture will be always the most. This will be the recent version of the PCB.
Yeah, exactly. So because we're using that branch/master/LED PCB, it's always going to be updated to reflect the most recent version on that master branch.
Mm-hmm. And here, I guess you can put there all the kind of information about your project.
Right. We have a pretty encompass or comprehensive demo project we have put together. It's allspice/Archimajor, where users can actually, we've given some demonstration for specifications, input power, output power, different links and things like that. So a ton of documentation that you can link together using those markdown files.
Can we see also, can we go back and see the changes again? I would like to see the history.
Yeah, let's commit those changes.
I would like to see what we were doing.
Right, now that's all reflected on the main file. And then we can always say view commits, and we can see our maybe not so comprehensive naming for those changes on that master branch.
Yeah, but there is decrease. Okay, decrease the light current, remove LED, delete left light. Okay, so basically, if it's needed, all the changes in design can be tracked. You can see who did it, what exactly was done. If there is problem, it can be tracked down to specific moment when something happened.
Yeah, you have that traceability, so you can see what changed when, and you can always see actually even the diff between those different versions. That was the one we didn't change anything, but in this case we had removed that circuit, so you can always go back and look at what changed for the different commits.
Cool. Okay. So how anyone can start using your system? Or first, let's say, is it free?
So right now we have a paid trial.
Can we go on your homepage?
Sure. Yeah, so go to allspice.io. Oops. And you'll see all the information about what we're offering here. There's information about, as you mentioned, plans and pricing. It is a paid product. We charge $65 per user per month for our cloud app, which is what everybody saw here. So it can be really, really helpful for individual contributors. I'll say keep an eye out for us. We will be adding a lower tier to the product to make it a little bit more accessible to folks that are maybe doing individual contributors or individual consulting.
What could be advantages of using this, for example? Collaboration, definitely collaboration, tracking the changes, or who could use it? Could you use it for open source projects, for example?
For sure. You configure for open source projects, definitely let us know, and we can work out getting you set up with a license. This you can see is actually an open project because it has that kind of open book icon. And this means it's visible to anyone. You can actually go to this repo and see it and clone it for yourself. So it can be super powerful for maintaining open source projects. You saw the ability to link to different versions of the design in images. That can be really helpful for kind of sharing around different schematic and PCB files for open source projects. For closed source projects too, and companies use this to collaborate on design and design releases. That's we find very, very helpful. Also for design consulting, for coordinating with clients and stakeholders, you're getting a place to kind of keep your designs kind of immutably versioned and track that history for all new versions of the design.
Yeah, I think you showed me there is also some kind of project view in in the repository, like where you can see what is happening and where you can see all the to-do lists and everything. Can we have a very quick look?
Yeah, exactly. There is what you can enable as an advanced feature is the projects. So if I enable projects here, it actually gives you another way to manage your project. So I'll just say test project, create a new board, and we'll create a basic Kanban board. I can do a similar thing that I did earlier with the milestones. Is I can actually add these to projects. So I'll add this to the test project. I'll even add a couple of my closed ones to the test project. And this gives you, as you can imagine, as designs get more and more complex, you might want the ability to communicate how and when you're working on something. So I'll put this in the done, this in the in progress. This can be a really powerful way to just organize maybe for multiple stakeholders, especially if you're a project manager or a consulting firm with multiple engineers. This can be really, really useful to organize and kind of keep everybody on the same page.
And I just would like to clarify. So what exactly is your product? Your product is this allspice.io website?
Yeah, that's right. We have also a free diff tool on our website. That's not really our product. That's totally for free. Our primary product, as you pointed out, is what you see here. This is Allspice Hub, Git hosting service.
Okay, so basically it's the tool which we can see here. So it will show the differences, it will track the changes and all these other things. Okay,
That's right. Track changes, its issues. What we say, beyond even just Allspice Hub and the product, what I would say we're really selling is a workflow and a management solution for electrical engineering teams. Not only, yes, we have revision control. Yes, we can do diff and correct red lines, but we can also do issues management, design reviews, project management, releases, kind of giving you that scalable yet simple to set up structure that you kind of want as you're growing and scaling a hardware team.
Okay, I know you have limited time, but there are still few things what I would like to go through. So first, what if someone is interested to try it? So what they should do?
So the first thing to do is head to our homepage here.
Yeah, because I've seen you have there this button request a demo. So I was expecting like I can just sign in or something. That's sign in. You can sign in.
Yes, you can sign in if you have an account set up already. So I'm already signed in. It brings me straight there. By the time this video goes live, we should have another option here, which is to sign up directly, and users can then start a trial on Allspice Hub, and that should be live by the time this video goes up.
Okay. Perfect.
So certainly, if anybody has questions, there's always the ability to set up a demo. Someone on our team will hop on a call and we'll basically give you a rundown, answer any questions about what we can do, or go over pieces of the product that even I just showed today.
So I guess even if there is no this special button, if someone will contact you, you can always create them account.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
And it's also worth pointing out it's free for colleges. So for any edu emails, we can also set you up an account. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Cool. Okay. Next thing what we maybe would like to show is how to import existing project. Because we
right. So a lot of folks such as yourself are using GitHub to manage their electronic design. If that's the case, really that's the simplest way to move over to Allspice Hub, because you can
this is my GitHub. I think we should mention.
Yeah,
this is my GitHub
exactly.
from one of the videos.
This is your GitHub project for this. Actually, this project that we've been using the whole time here, and I can run. It's called a migration. Pull from any of these data sources, GitHub in this case, and basically just post in the URL. Because it's an open source project, we don't have to add an access token here, but we could generate an access token in GitHub. We have documentation for how to do that, and we'll include that in I think the video
So
notes.
if you have like private repositories, then you need access token.
Right. If it's a private repository, or if you want to bring over issues, pull requests, and releases, things like that, if you have some of those project management features that you wanted to import as well, you can do that.
Okay, I think maybe you need to change repository name because we already have this one.
Let's say create a new one. And no need to be private, so I'll make it public. And what this is doing is it's just chewing on all the data and bringing it over.
Okay, and that's it?
And that's it.
Cool.
That's it. And then you have, you have your design files ready to render. The other thing you can do there is you can actually configure it as a mirror as well.
What does it mean?
So, a whole bunch of stuff we could follow up on in the future, but you can essentially, if we wanted to put that back in, we could again give it that authorization to actually say, keep that other repo up to date. I'm going to keep using this one.
So everything, all the changes, what engineers will be doing in allspice IO will be then reflected back to the original GitHub?
Exactly.
Okay, cool. I'm going to check if I ask everything. I think we went through everything. Or did we forget something?
I don't think so. I think we nailed it.
Okay, cool. So thank you very much, Kyle.
Absolutely.
I would like to say for everyone who is still watching, like, I really like this idea. I really like, I think this is like super useful tool, and that's the reason why I created this video, because I would like to show people that there is this nice way how they can manage the hardware projects.
Yeah, I mean, we think this is coming to hardware. Revision control and Git. This is going to have a big impact on hardware in the coming years. I think a lot of the challenges that we've faced as electrical engineers over the last few years, especially with supply chain being pushed in a lot of areas, that's going to necessitate better ways to work together, better ways to collaborate and review and release designs. So it's an important area. I appreciate the notice and jumping through the project, because we love talking about it.
Me too. Well, thank you very much, Kyle.
Thanks, Robert.
And that's everything. Thank you very much for watching this video. By the way, we are preparing some very interesting tutorials, so if you don't want to miss them, hit the subscribe button. If you want, you can also check out our Federal online courses, where you will find everything important from basic board design up to advanced hardware design and PCB layout. The link is in the description. That's all for this video. Thank you again. Don't forget to leave your comments, and see you next time. Bye.